now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the pilot episode of A Sea of Spears, our World of Ice and Fire RPG game, hosted on the Shadowcasters Network and brought to you by Green Ronin. Two great tastes that taste great together. This is our very first in character episode. Several of you have joined us as we rolled up the house and rolled up some characters, and today we are rolling into trouble. So let's get started introducing you all to the young scions of the noble house Nymaryen. And let's do this in status order, starting with our Lady Air. Take it away, Felicia.
I'm Felicia Zimmerman, and I'm playing Raina Nymaryen. I am the heir and eldest twin of the house, uh, and Raina is a prime example of our old Valyrian blood in that she has the silver hair and the amethyst eyes. She's very thin and she's tall. So she definitely has that look. Unlike her twin, Bela.
Hi, I'm Erica Hoffman, and I'm playing Bela Nymaryen. I am the just briefly younger twin sister of our house heir. Um, I am tall, dark-haired, dark eyes, um, tan, well built, but not like really muscular, just slim and agile.
And these twin ladies of the house are the eldest, and they represent kind of the two halves of House Nymaryen. The two of them have been raised together somewhat overprotectively by their grandfather, Lord Makar. Um, and the two have very different physical and also kind of mental types, different flavors of royalty and nobility. Felicia's character, the heir, has always been more mature, more grounded, and a little more aloof and serious minded. So much that people used to joke that she was years older than her twin until some growth spurts started to hit in and the increased physicality of the wild Roynish blood began to more than catch up. So the two of them are undeniable beauties, the pride and future of their house, that have been raised to rule and to fight, as is the Dornish custom for women folk. But they also, in a very Westerosi way, the blood is true, and one of them ended up with that Valyrian split, and one ended up with that wild Roynish blood that's much more Nymaryen and Dornish. Next in line in this house is the eldest son. Robert can't join us this weekend. He's at some convention, I believe. He'll be here for the next episodes. But the firstborn son of House Nymaryen of Wyvern's Rest is Lucerys Nymaryen. He is of Valyrian blood, but he has taken cares and pains to kind of hide it. He is dyeing his hair to try to stay a little under the radar because he is currently a knight in King's Landing. He finished his squiring to the Master at Arms of the Red Keep there in King's Landing, and has been serving as a courtier, just representing the house in the capital for the last few months. So you guys won't be seeing him until next session when we get there. But Lucerys Nymaryen is a little more worldly than the sisters who've been protected and kept at home. And you guys will all meet Robert next time. So next in line, and the next player and character to meet, is the second son, young Adam. Take it away, Ash.
Hi, I'm Ash. I'm playing Adam Nymaryen, the sort of the baby of the family. He has been squiring in the north for House Manderley, but that has been cut short as a riding accident has shattered his leg, leaving him unable to continue his progress towards being a knight. So it is returning to his family with crippled body and broken dreams, really, and trying to recalibrate his trajectory in life and find a new place in the world.
And that wraps up the young scions of House Nymaryen, but that does not round out the cast of characters, because this young generation of nobles is going to be joined on their adventures, trials, tribulations, and misadventures by a bastard ward of the Riverlands. Who is that, Kevin?
Hi, I'm Kevin Zarnicki, and I'll be playing the part of Vannon Rivers, a bastard of the Riverlands and of House Blackwood. He stands much like the sword he wields, long, lean, a bastard. He has dreams of ascending to some kind of prominence, almost despite his apparent father, Lord Blackwood. Aside from that, he dreams of tourneys, but before that, and truthfully still during, he really appreciates scholarly pursuits. This has left him just a little lacking in the arts of manipulating people in politics, but it's left him with a strong sword arm, an incredible faculty with animals, and not a little bit of book learning.
And that wraps up our... go ahead.
I forgot to give a brief description of Adam.
Okay.
Sorry. He's sort of kind of lanky, sweet-faced 15-year-old with the kind of the Valyrian kind of pale blonde hair, but with the dark eyes of his Dornish blood.
So I was tickled with the way our bloodlines fell together, because it feels very George R.R. Martin-y, where those physical traits kind of mix and mingle in perhaps unrealistic ways, but symbolic ways, so it's kind of fun. That rounds out our cast of player characters. Last and not least, I'm the GM, and I get to play everyone else. So bear with me as I occasionally dabble in funny accents and that sort of thing, switching from character to character instead of just continuing my lifelong LARP as Robert Baratheon. But we have one last thing to introduce before the game really gets started, after this brief introduction of players and characters, and that's introducing the widget that you guys all see in the top left-hand corner of your screen, which is your very own opportunity to claim the Iron Throne. By sending out likes and subscribes and all the rest of those goodies, you as viewers can seize the Iron Throne yourself. On other streams, the HP stands for hit points. Here it stands for horsepower, because the hit points remaining are how many knights the king has to defend the throne with. And as the stream boss is defeated and King's Landing runs out of knights with which to defend itself, you are able to invade and claim the throne. Whenever the Iron Throne is claimed, one player character that has spent a destiny point can refresh that destiny point, and it can go to an NPC instead if you prefer, Throne Caesar. But we think normally it's going to be trying to help out the players. And then whoever claims the Iron Throne and holds it at the end of a stream will get to chat with me briefly, and as the reigning king or queen of the Andals and the First Men, defender of the realm, protector of the kingdom, etc., you can grant a boon to a noble house of your choosing. That can be House Nymaryen of Wyvern's Rest. But if you start to like some NPCs and you start to get interested in their plots and schemes and entanglements, you can grant a boon to a different house. So that's going to be up to whoever claims the Iron Throne at the end of an episode. And we're going to find a way to work that little boon in the next episode whenever possible. So you'll get some fairly immediate gratification. The very next time you watch, you can see schemes twisting and turning. But that Destiny Point refresh is going to encourage the players to kind of go big, keep things exciting, spend their Destiny Points to keep the dice going hot, and then hopefully you guys will reward them. And if you don't, And if the Iron Throne gets seized and you decide to reward NPCs instead and keep their rivals going, then it's just going to feel that much more like you're actually reading a Song of Ice and Fire book, because bad things are going to happen to good people. And that's the most Westerosi thing of all.
When the book finally comes out.
Exactly. So, with the stream boss also introduced, I'm going to set the stage and we're going to kick things off and get rolling in character. Everyone is currently assembled at Wyvern's Rest, which, as you may recall from a few sessions ago, is the castle of House Nymaryen. It is carved out of the red stones of the Red Mountains and lies at a crucial juncture along the Stoneway, which is a mountain pass / road. It's actually like paved and very cleared in many long stretches. That is the kind of arterial line from the Stormlands into Dorne. The colloquial name for the Stoneway is the Bone Way, because so many wars have been fought in it, so many armies have been ambushed here over the years, over the generations, over the millennium, that armies have just been left to rot on the side of the road. There's tangles of skeletons to this day in certain key areas. If the quarrelsome Dornish refused to even let the Stormlands recover their dead, it's just been left for the vultures in the sun. So it's a harsh place, but it is a place of prominence and wealth and prosperity to House Nymaryen, founded by your grandfather's grandfather during the reign of King Daeron the Good, when the Valyrian and the Rhoynar bloodlines were joined by House Nymeros Martell being married into the Valyrian line of Targaryen kings. A byblow of that relationship was this house being formed, being founded, and being given a very important spot along the Stoneway, something of a safe haven, an asylum or an oasis, if you will. They are the overseers, along with their sworn banner houses, of a lush green valley and a place where streams and rivers pour down through their bannermen's lands and into the Sea of Dorne. So the lands under their control actually stretch to the coastline from the Stoneway all the way to the Sea of Dorne. It's an important spot about halfway down, and they're an important house because of it. Everyone has gathered here recently, and largely to celebrate. They recently had a reasonably important victory over some of the bandits that perpetually plague the lands of your bannermen, particularly the wooded regions that are overseen by your Aunt Elia, the Lady Knight of House Sandstorm. She and her troops are much less mobile than your cavalry, which are largely supplied by a different bannerman. And the woods make it difficult for even cavalry patrols to always find their prey. But there was a recent skirmish with these bandits that saw the twin ladies of House Nymaryen exposed to threat, perhaps through their own hubris, perhaps because they're just fine horses with fine riders atop them. But they raced a bit away from the cavalry patrol in their urgency to attack the foe and cleanse their land. And the Lady Heir's horse fell to an arrow and a broken leg, and sadly had to be put down. Her twin rushed to fight back to back, and the two of them were encircled, but the remainder of the cavalry arrived with the bastard ward at the lead of that charge. So the celebration tonight is not just over a victory of a few dozen bandits, but in recognition of the young Riverlander's courage, tenacity, and bravery, and the fact that he may very well have saved the lives of your brash and dedicated young leaders. The other cause for celebration is that young Adam has returned to you. Perhaps not completely hale and hearty, or hale and healthy, But he made the journey safely. He arrived just yesterday as that bedraggled patrol was returning. And a trip from the north is no small feat, especially if you're already recovering from a grievous injury. So everyone was already worried about Adam. But he made it here last night, just before dusk, or just after dusk. And it's good to see him home again. It's good that he's safe. It's good that he is in one piece, even if that piece is a little bit twisted around one leg and a little bit limpy. He's comparatively safe, and that's not nothing. And then, as if on cue, because you heard there was a celebration, you're going to be joined by a few NPCs that came rolling in a few hours after dawn today. And that is Will of the Bells, a hedge knight that, if he were less welcome, you would say plagues this house, because he comes by every now and then, normally when he needs a place to stay and to rest up and heal. Sir Will, or Woolly Will, because he took an oath about 15 years ago to not shave his beard or cut his hair, is a big slope-shouldered mountain of a man with this terrifically wild mane and this tangled beard. Kind of looks like Brendan Gleeson, that actor, especially in his role in Kingdom of Heaven. And you guys see him normally every 2 or 3 years. He kind of cycles through the region. It's been about 5 years since his last visit, though. And you almost have trouble recognizing him because that tremendous tangled mass of hair isn't that bright Riverlander red shot through with white anymore. It's white with a few streaks of red. So his hair is like a copper mine that is running dry. There's a few streaks of weak red, a kind of rustish red in it. And his shoulders are more sloped than you remember. And you remember him as this giant. He was larger than the Strongsider, your master at arms. He was larger than Sir Adam Bridington, your master of horse. It's just this huge bear of a man that's very much not built like a Nymaryen. He's not built like a Dornishman or a Valyrian. He was this huge kind of round guy. And he's still pretty huge and still pretty round, but he's getting much older. So it takes you a moment to recognize him. It also takes you a moment to recognize the driver of the wagon, because that's not just his boy Oris anymore. Oris is a looming, tall drink of water with these huge, broad shoulders. You all remember him because he's a few years younger than you, as kind of this scrawny kid that was very serious about training at arms and not much else. He could read a little bit, but he didn't have your culture. He certainly didn't have your status. He's just Oris. Didn't even have a last name. It was just Oris, the Hedge Knight's boy. Well, Oris is about 6'6" now. And while he's not quite as shaggy as Sir Will, he's got shoulder-length hair that's just black as night. He's got stubble on, and he's got kind of a brooding look on his face now, which you think might be related to the clear injuries that Woolly Will has. Will is not riding on his horse for maybe the first time you've ever seen. He's laid up in the side of their wagon with his arm up in a sling, and one big tree trunk leg is like stretched out the side of the wagon with splints on it, and his huge mane of hair is partially kind of matted in place by bandages wound around his head. So he's not looming as large as you remember from 10 years ago, of course, but he also just looks kind of faded and worn out in comparison. But they must have heard that there's a feast, because here the Hedge Knights come. They're like, hey, free food. We've never been refused at Wyvern's Rest, and it looks like they never will be. because as the entire keep and castle is assembled here in the square, and most of you are wearing your finest, Grandfather Makar found a spot for Woolly Will and for Surly Oris. And they're kind of towards the back, but they're still there where, the other loyal house retainers and stuff should be, where your sworn knights are. Aunt Elia is here. She rode up from Sandstorm first to make sure that patrol was fine, and then she looked a little disappointed and put her arrows back in their quiver. But then, because she wanted to celebrate this momentous occasion, Sir Adam Bridington is here. He is the master of horse of your house. He's another grizzled old knight. He's a much leaner, lankier build. I would say more of a Liam Neeson build, but I'm a little down on Liam Neeson lately, but still that body type. Long and lean and fit for his age, but not that huge mountain of a man. And he also brought with him his loyal septum, Jim, who looks a lot like James Purefoy. He himself could certainly be a knight instead of a septon. And he stays in the saddle with Sir Adam Bridington. They ride patrols together, even at their age. So all these loyal retainers are here. Everyone is wearing their finest. Everyone's cleaned up. The bathhouses were extra busy last night and today. First, so that the dusty, bloody patrol could get cleaned up, but also so everyone could get ready. This is a proper feast and a celebration of Adam's return and of Vannin's ascension. So what's everybody wearing, and where are you standing in the square as this ceremony is being prepared?
I stand next to Grandfather, as is correct. And since this is a formal encounter, I will be wearing a simple light gown because it is warm. In shades of wine and cream, with the simple, just a simple silken head wrap once with the end.
All right, got a little bit choppy there at the end, but I think I've got the mental image, and I think it looks dope. How is your sister looking? The other half of your yin and yang.
Magnificent, if I do say so myself.
She does.
So I have on a similarly light dress, but mine's colored with yellows of the sun and silvers and golds. And I'm going to be standing around Aunt Elia and, conversing a little bit about some of the patrols, what we found, maybe some planning for wanting to follow up in that region for additional patrols, something like that.
Sure. Aunt Elia, for her part, is also definitely this kind of classic Dornish look. If anybody has seen commercials or much less played the recent Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they have male and female protagonist options, and the female protagonist is just as tall and buff as the male protagonist, because I didn't want to shoot all the cutscenes twice. But Cassandra from Assassin's Creed Odyssey is this looming, tall, broad-shouldered Mediterranean woman with her hair in kind of a simple, kind of single-plaited braid. And that's basically what Aunt Elia looks like. She's got those kind of dusky Dornish hues, kind of olive-hued skin and that sort of thing. But she's also got that very powerful upper body of a lifelong archer. She's been shooting longbows and stuff literally longer than you all have been alive. And she's just got like that Olympian build going in the upper body. And she's more than happy to talk troop placements with you. And, she shares, there's a simultaneous attack at a different camp yesterday. She and her men didn't even use their blades. They just, shot him at range. And she's talking about that, and then where they suspect some other camps might be. And so she's more than happy to sit and talk warfare with you. Grandpa Makar, just to describe his garb real quick, he is actually wearing his gambeson, his light kind of padded armor. Everyone has seen on the Game of Thrones show that kind of leather jacket that Jaime Lannister wears. That's actually kind of their version of that padded gambeson armor. And Grandpa Makar is wearing his of that. It's kind of a steely gray, that gray color that is used throughout the house. That's not quite a silver, but it's wearing that color. But then he also has on kind of a sash across one shoulder and then down to his hip. That's this streak of wine red from the rest of the house crest. And every little button and fitting and belt buckle and every piece of metal that he's wearing is gold. So he's definitely got the house colors on, and in kind of a formal look, but with an appropriately martial bent. And he's wearing his sword belt and has his sword at his hip. Because a knighting is a ceremony, but it's still definitely a martial affair. Grandpa Makar, by the way, Lord Makar, is played by Christopher Plummer, that actor. So he's got that just straight up dignified white hair, those sharp features, very serious features, but occasionally so with a glint of mischief in his eyes when the mood strikes him. So Lord Makar is looking very regal, and the white hair and dark colors, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to dress in a fancy-pantsy, fashionable way. What about the youngster of our family? Where's Adam, and how does he look?
Right, well, Adam has been in the north since he was 8 years old, so is not used to this hot Darnish weather at all. He is dying of the heat. So has dressed as lightly as possible in the kind of Dornish style, with the sort of wrapped silk robe over light breeches and boots, rather than wearing leathers, just so that he can stay conscious. And he likes kind of blues and greens, so he'll have gone with a kind of mixture of those kind of colours of the sea, that kind of complements his pale complexion. And I think initially, with Willy Will turning up in a bit of a state, he'll have made a massive fuss of him, worried about the old family friend, but been very shy around his son, who has transformed enormously since he last saw him, and kind of, I don't know this strange, intriguing person. I'm going to avoid them. But when Adam Bridington shows up, that's the man that he looked up to the most before he left. So we'll have stuck close to him, trying to reconnect.
Wooly will make a big joke about using you as a crutch only in the direst of emergencies, because he's afraid he'd break you, lad. And he probably would. Even if his leg was still working, if he was to lean on you, that mass would still be there. Sir Adam, meanwhile, actually tears up just a hair, and then hides it with a cough. Oh, damn, still not used to this dust down here. He's lived in Dorne for like 20 years. But he'll kind of hide it, and he'll go, "Oh, what'd some terrible northern pony do to your leg? I told your grandfather I couldn't train him in ice. Shouldn't be sending him up to those snowy mountains. And look, they went and broke you while I wasn't there. I'm sorry, lad. I'm sorry."
Oh, you have nothing to be sorry for. It could have happened to anyone. It was just an accident. It wasn't anyone's fault. Certainly not yours. In fact, if anything, the reason the reason I'm still alive is because of how well you trained me. I only got injured because of how well I was trained.
Well, she lost a horse yesterday. He points over at and you almost lost a leg to a horse. If you lot keep this up, no one will have to worry about trying to find me a bride and heir. Bridington lands will be dissolved. They'll make a horse master of horse, and I'm just glad you're okay, lad. And he'll reach out and tousle your hair, and they'll be like, dust, Dornish winds, and springtime. It's springtime. And that brings us to Vannon, who is the reason for the season, or at least the reast for the feast. Vannon, how are you dressed up?
Vannon has gotten used to the heat, and all this time, he never seems to tan even under the Dornish sun, so he's as pale as ever, offset by dark hair with extremely premature white streaks in it, considering he's only 20. He's clad in extremely dark red undershirt and very dark gray, like slacks, overshirt, high riding boots. He's cleaned up a lot, especially considering the perpetual dust of the road which clings to him usually. So he's not standing abreast with the siblings. He begrudgingly knows his place and is instead behind them, which probably works because he's fairly tall compared to everybody.
And while everyone is still kind of getting together, you're able to be wherever you want. You're all just kind of milling around and socializing at this point.
He's a bastard. He's angsty.
Sure. And that said, however, everyone seems to be here. Wild Wooly is wearing his finery, such as it is, which to say his cleanest tabard is tossed on over his usual attire. The looming young Oris actually has garb that's halfway between a traveler's garb and a peasant's garb. Like one costs 2 silver and one costs 4, and he spent 3. Right? So it's like good quality peasant garb. He has been growing like crazy. Like I said, he's basically unrecognizable. And even what he's wearing, which doesn't look all that dusty from the road or need mending or whatever, so it's probably fairly new, like, it still looks a little bit short on him already. So it looks like he's definitely still growing. But it's clean. They both went out of their way. They both bathed after they arrived, along with the other retainers and small folk. Yeah, that's a big deal. It gets it out of the way for this year. I mean,
yearly bath, whether you need it or not.
Yeah, every year. But yeah, so they've done what they can to clean up. Oris has his pitch black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, which is about as close as he's going to come to combing it for you, because Woolly Will isn't big on the grooming. He didn't teach him much about combing and trimming. Yeah, so they cleaned up as much as they could. But Sir Adam is in his finest. He's been a knight for decades. He knows how to clean up for this sort of thing. The Strong Sider, the master at arms here at the keep, is in his armor that has been raised to a well-oiled gleam, and he doesn't often wear his full armor because he's in Dorne. But he's actually in his rattling plate mail for this, and it's polished to a high shine, and he wants to, he's looking his best, and everyone is together. The maester goes puttering off upstairs, mentioning nothing of particular import or clarity. He's not quite as old as Maester Pycelle from the show, but he has honorably served Grandfather Makar for quite some time. We will put it politely that way. So he is sharp as a whip, but not always using his outside voice. At times he's given to just muttering to himself and walking off to write something down
And it's
hurriedly
up to
or whatever.
us to have heard what he said.
Yeah, like he's like, I clearly told you. So it's not, an old man being befuddled or whatever. It's just volume issues happen as you get on in years. So everyone's here, but he goes puttering off. But Lord Makar doesn't seem off-put by the Maester leaving. And instead, with the clarity of a trumpet fanfare or the stamping of royal heralds or the shouted orders of an officer over a battlefield filled with screams, Lord Makar simply clears his throat. And here, in Wyvern's Rest, that sound carries and silences everything else. So it's just a and everybody stops and kind of turns and looks towards him. And it's just, that kind of aced status roll that everyone was, okay, I guess we're getting started. So he clears his throat, and that gives everyone a chance to kind of part a little bit. The siblings part from around you, Vannon, in a way that you're not used to. You're not being told to go somewhere. Instead, it looks like House Nymaryen subtly arranged themselves so that you would be on the X, as it were, when the time came. And they just kind of part and are flanking you in positions of honor as Lord Makar stands in front of you with those 2 feet going down as surely as the feet of the Titan of Braavos. Like, he stands where he means to stand. That's where he's going to stay. Wherever he stands is the lordship of Wyvern's Rest. Right? So there's an air of finality as he puts his feet down. And then he raises his voice just enough to be clear to the farthest viewers. And he says, Vanen Rivers, kneel.
Drop to one knee. On the outside, cool as a cucumber. On the inside, oh my god, 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 oh my god.
This time yesterday, the pride and future of House Nymaryen was put in peril by reckless courage and the brigandry of those that stubbornly plague the Red Mountains of Dorne. You were there for them. As your Lord Father was there for the Loyalist cause a generation ago, you spilled blood and risked your life out of loyalty just a day hence. And so, and he reaches down and draws his sword with this measured calmness that is clearly like it's a ceremonial drawing, and it's a good sized sword, like it's a proper long sword, but he holds it steady as a rock, and there's no doubt in your mind that it's exactly where he wants it to be. As he lowers it and touches one shoulder, and it just barely brushes you, doesn't disturb your hair or your ear, and it's just steady and straight, just like his voice, as those piercing violet Targaryen eyes stare straight at you. And he says, "In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave and true. In the name of the mother, I charge you to defend the young and innocent. In the name of the maid, I charge you to protect all women. In the name of the smith, I charge you to finish what you start. And in the name of the crone, I charge you to light the path for others. Knights must be beacons." And the sword lifts, and it goes up and over, and it taps your opposite shoulder. And he says, "Rise, a knight, Sir Vanen Rivers." And the sword is wavering just a little bit as it gets done, and you are all close enough that you can see standing this straight and tall and proud and holding 4 feet of steel at arm's length. It's taking a toll on him, but you know that if all of you were 10 more feet away, you wouldn't have any idea. But you can see him wobbling just a little bit, and he, reverses the blade so that it's out of the way, and he holds a hand out, not to help Vannon up, but to offer him a handshake as he rises on his own.
I take the hand. Take the hand, shake as I rise. I shall not fail you.
I do not doubt it, sir. And then he gives a little nod and kind of gestures towards the crowd for you to turn and soak in the accolade.
I'm not quite sheepish, but yay.
It is also not exactly the natural habitat of a bastard and ward. But there's no denying it. Certainly all the landed knights and loyal retainers are whooping and hollering in as much as etiquette allows them to. The Strong-Sider and Sir Adam are somewhat reserved and formal, being knights raised in the Reach and the Vale. Aunt Elia don't give a fuck. She's a bastard from Dorne, so she's whooping and hollering and flexing a little bit as she pumps a fist in the air. You're pretty sure that Wooly Will would be clapping if he didn't have a broken arm. So instead, one of those giant ham hands, he's just slapping it violently on his belly. So his whole body is jiggling and rolling as he hoops and hollers as though he had a part in this at all. What is our response from the scions of House Nymaryen?
We start the cheer. Sir Vannon.
There's a rabbit.
Sir Vannon!
Yeah, Sir Vannon.
All I need is a last name.
Oh, you have one. It's Rivers. You don't get to forget that. But he still just introduced you as Sir Vannon. So, with a gesture that looks like welcoming pride to the future, Lord Makar holds an arm out to gesture his heir a little closer, and it looks like a warm hand on your shoulder, but you can feel that he's leaning on you a little more than he used to, a little more than he did at other knightings or similar ceremonies when you've all been arrayed like this. So standing and projecting just the right amount for his voice to ring just a little bit in the keep. He's still got it, but it's taking a little bit of a toll on him these times. But he does also give you a loving squeeze on the shoulder, like look at what our house is doing. Look at what we have done. Look at this array of retainers and sworn swords and landed knights, and these will all be yours someday, my girl. Type of look, we're gonna be all right. And then you all hear a soft metallic clanking noise, and the maester comes shuffling back, quickly enough that his maester's chain is rattling. And that used to be the giveaway when you had lessons you wanted to avoid. If he was scurrying after you, perhaps, for instance, shouting Bela's name and calling her back to force her to sit down and once again memorize the Targaryen family tree.
Oh, God.
When he is agitated, he clanks when he walks.
No.
When he's not agitated, it's just this kind of scuffle of slippers on stone. But when something is important or he's in a rush, that chain kind of jangles him. So everybody, you guys look up for a different reason than everyone else. You're used to going, oh shit, math, and like run off. But he, this brown robed shadow kind of scurries up. Vanen is or Vannon, sorry, is absorbed in an army of pats on the back and a bear hug from Aunt Elia that leaves you feeling funny in your tingly bits and also maybe hurts your ribs because she is crazy strong. And
Is this what sex is?
It's like, no, that's how bastards happen. But yeah, so this big,
Double
just
bastard.
unabashed
Oh my.
hug from her, and
Sandy
a
Rivers.
yeah, there you go. And a swat on the back from the strong cider, who is nominally the one that's taught you to fight. So he's proud, kind of a father when their son does well in a little league game type of vibe. It's like I taught him how to do that thing. So everyone's cheering and clapping and all that, but the young nobles are there next to Lord Makar as your maester reaches out with an age-spotted hand and unnecessarily leans in and says, a raven came, my lord. And grandfather has on his serious lord face, which is his default features. But you notice there's a little bit of a hardening around the eyes as he
I
reads
give him a
it.
squint.
And he leans over and gives kind of a polite nod to Maester Patrick, who shuffles off. And then Lord Makar gestures, and the house page runs up. It's a nephew of the strong cider. And he leans over to the boy for a moment. The lad scurries off. And then he turns to you, his heir, Reyna. He says, bring the children and Sir Vannon. And Sir Willem of the Bells. His boy, too. Let us be off to the Solar. Have a meet there shortly. Shortly is Lord Makar talk for not
Now.
like super urgently, but it better not be too long either. And then he turns and strides away with renewed purpose.
Of course, grandfather. Turn around. Look at Bela. Did you hear that?
What? Yeah, it's great, Sir Vannon.
Grandfather wants us in the Solar
What
shortly.
for? Shortly.
We received a raven. And
Yeah.
Adam, you too.
What happened? I didn't do anything.
Do you know what it said?
I do not. I was not close enough to read over his shoulder.
I see.
Grandfather wants us to gather in his Solar shortly.
Oh, all right.
Um,
Well, we'll be.
Some private celebrations, perhaps?
Sure. If that will help us get us there more quickly, then yes.
Right. Well, will we go now?
Yes. Well,
Sure.
say your goodbyes, but we'll rejoin the party later.
Right.
People are not
Yeah.
going to be rushing away. There's a feast.
Yeah, the you guys know the party's gonna last. Like it'll be fun.
This is Dorne. It is
Yeah.
known.
Yeah. Since but kind of Reyna is charged with kind of rounding everyone up, Adam will be kind of free to just sort of excuse himself and make the way up.
I will fetch Sir Vannon from his crowd of admirers with a hand on his arm. Pardon me, everyone. I must borrow our star of the evening.
Is all well?
As far as I'm aware, Grandfather wishes to see us in the Solar shortly.
We can go now.
Excellent. I will. Uh, I still need to speak to Sir Will, so I will be right behind you.
Make my way to the solar.
I will go to Will of the Bells, where he is propped up.
Sir Will is balancing precariously but enthusiastically on one leg, using his one good arm on the banquet table. So he's got that giant ham-sized hand, and he's got a plate that he puts down and then scoops like a handful of stuff off of a platter and onto his plate, and then he hops threateningly a little bit down the table. Like, he is gonna knock over so much stuff, you guys. But he hops down and then slides his plate down and then grabs himself another, armful of meat pies. He's over there. Oris is brooding not far away. Just, Sir Will, will you just let me? Sir Will, Sir Will, I've got two hands. Sir Will, just let me. And he goes, I got it, boy. I can feed myself. And then he almost falls over, gesticulating at Oris because he has one arm and one leg. And so yeah, that's the status quo that you walk up on. Push to talk.
I will tap Sir Will on the shoulder.
Huh? Oh, ha ha ha! Reyna, look at you. Not
Yes,
here
look
for a fruit tart? And he tries to offer you a plate. I didn't mean to take the last one. I think the boy did it.
Sir Will, if you choose to have that tart, that is your tart. However, my grandfather seeks you to join us in his solar.
The solar? There's stairs. Fine. I'll not refuse our host, of course. Boy, carry the food. What are you doing? I've got one arm and one leg. Damn it, Squire, help your knight. And he goes shuffling off like a mountain on the roll.
I smile at Oris.
Oris does not smile back.
That's fine.
Those huge shoulders of his are like slumped and like, God damn it, this is my life. That just, I fucking told him. And he grabs that plate and he goes off, staying a few steps behind.
Okay,
and
mental
they head up to the
list.
solar.
Children, Sir Will,
Oris.
and that was it, right?
Yeah, and
Oris.
Oris. Yeah, so you got everybody. So we will bweep up to the solar. The solar of a proper castle like this is basically the Lord's office. It's where he spends his days, and in Lord Makar's case, all too often his nights. He's got a huge desk that is it's propped up on sturdy wooden legs, but it's a smooth slab of red stone, like what they used to create the keep itself, and it's been worn and polished over the century plus a hair that this house has been. But at the same time that they were carving the castle out, they gave him this huge slab of a desk, and it perpetually has maps and letters he's writing, and half written letters and half half burned letters, and it's a little brazier for burning stuff. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. I knew what I meant. That's how it's pronounced.
You can burn a brazier in a brazier.
Yeah.
But he's got all that. He's got the sealing wax, and the actual seal, which is a little kind of stylus type of thing about this long. It's mimicked in the seal ring, the signet ring. You also have a signet ring, Reyna. But it's just got stuff all over it. A couple of empty dishes, because he tends to stay here and work through the night instead of eating like he should. All kinds of stuff like that. But but we're going to skip up to there. The kind of love seat sized chair is completely consumed by Woolly Will. It's meant for multiple people to sit on, or for someone to sit and have maps and stuff ready, and instead it's just him and his mass. And Oris is kind of brooding in a corner near the door, because like nobody told him to leave, but he assumed he was supposed to after he carried up Woolly Will's stuff. But he's just also looks kind of ready to bolt. Like, I don't go in Solars. But he's just kind of waiting there near the door. And the rest of you are arrayed in usual spots. There are a few stools that are able to be pulled out kind of behind the desk for the twins to sit at. So everyone is together, and Grandfather takes out the cloth from the
Subway
Raven,
napkin.
and he reads it without looking at it again. And he says, "To the noble houses of Westeros," and he kind of stares off into the distance. His fingers are steepled in thought. "Greetings in the name of King Robert Baratheon. His Royal Highness has declared a tourney shall be held in honor of the name day of the Princess Myrcella on the fields of King's Landing to begin 2 weeks hence. All vassals to the crown are invited to attend and do honor to their names." And then he gives it a little kind of negligent brush towards Rhaena, and even at arm's length, you can see there's a second, much bolder, much sloppier hand that is scrawled onto the bottom half of it. It says, "Especially you Nymaryens. I was reminded of your existence by the ascension of Sir Lucerys.
Dang it, Luke.
And then
What did he do now?
the Stag's Head seal of Robert Baratheon. You received word a few months ago that your brother Lucerys was knighted. He was knighted by the knight he served, the Master-at-Arms of the Red Keep, a knight of Spotswood, Sir Santagar. And it's a joyous occasion, but it seems like maybe him being knighted kind of got Robert's eye. Like, Robert wasn't able to just ignore him as a squire. Robert must have just noticed when he got knighted. So that's kind of the writer on this very polite invitation is written in a bold and sloppy hand, calling out your house to attend.
Dang it, Bobby.
I suppose on the bright side, he didn't put this on everyone's invitation.
True.
Yeah.
One can only hope.
One would hope he had more decorum than that.
Grandfather lifts a skeptical eyebrow, as he often does when discussing the decorum, or indeed the royalty, of Lord Robert, or King Robert Baratheon. But he keeps his fingers steepled and kind of leans back in his chair and says, "There is no denying this invitation. I am sorry, my sweet daughters." He often calls you that instead of granddaughters. "I cannot keep you from him any longer. You must attend. Will, you are certainly not. But we have no squire, as it would seem we've misplaced ours and replaced him with a knight. Might we borrow young Oris for a month or two? Out of character, you guys know it's basically going to take you the 2 weeks to get there. Like, that's kind of a dick move on Robert's part. You get the feeling that that this probably was an invitation that was held and sent out to you a little bit later. But it's going to take you most of that time to get there. You know the tourney itself is going to last at least a week. Tourneys are grand affairs. So you're probably looking at a little over a month to get back. So Will, in an uncharacteristic move, has stopped just like shoveling food into his mouth and then occasionally carelessly spitting some of the bones back out onto his plate. And he's giving your grandfather a long and serious look. Woolly Will is a man that has never been refused at Wyvern's Rest. But he's a man that hasn't often been welcomed by Lord Makar. Lord Makar tends to be very stiff and formal with him, even for Lord Makar. The other knights, Sir Adam Bridington and the Strongsider, have been very respectful to Woolly Will over the years, almost deferential. If knights are training and squires are training, Woolly will correct the Strongsider, like not loudly, not calling him on it, but like you'll see him kind of shake his head, and then the Strongsider will like change his instruction or whatever. Like that's not normal for the master. Like so, he's clearly very respected by the other knights and by your grandfather, but your grandfather clearly seems to kind of not like him, or maybe kind of hold some sort of grudge against him. But this look that they're sharing is a clear kind of mutual respect. We've talked about this before. It's not just a polite request. It's also not a lordly order. He seems to honestly be asking Will, like, are you on board? And Will gives him a long look, and then his big bushy eyebrows kind of turn, and he gives Oris a look, and he goes, I think the boy's ready. I'll talk to him tonight. And then he sits back, and his plate of food, he kind of rests it on his belly, which is why he's been growing as chubby as he has, because he knew he might be down in arms someday, and that way he could keep a food ready. But he stops eating. Like, he looks like he's overcome by a serious weight, and it looks like his shoulders have slumped a little bit more. At that note of assent, Grandfather sits up straighter, though, like something new has started. He goes, yes, you'll all be leaving in the morning. We'll speak then. Go. Enjoy your feast, Sir Vannon. The rest of you, enjoy the feast also. Drink deep, rest well. Meet me in the Solar after you break your fasts. I have work to do. And he just looks down at his letters and gets busy writing stuff.
Respectfully, and go.
You're able to have a short meeting in the hallway if you'd like. Woolly Will goes limping off, and Oris is already like thunderously whispering at him. The hell was that all about? The hell am I going to the capital? You said I should never go to the capital. You know why? Oris is not a sneaky fellow. Even in his, road dark clothes. He's not dirty clothes, but they're all browns and grays and blacks. He's got Andal pale skin, and he's 6.5 feet tall, and his idea of a whisper is not. So you can definitely hear them receding. And as has often been the case, the grandchildren and the ward are free to have their own meeting in the hallway outside the Solar. So you've got a few minutes here if you want to, before you head down to the feast, and we will fast forward.
First things first, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Are you up to another long trip?
Well, I mean, it's not like we have a choice.
I know, but it influences how many wagons we need to take.
Well, I mean, I'm coming with you.
You're absolutely coming with.
So,
You're up for it, is what you're telling me. And that you are on board just as much as we are.
yeah, I'm with you.
Excellent. You just got home. I know that can be jarring.
Well, no, it's fine.
All right then.
What do you think that was about? The between grandfather and Will.
I have absolutely no idea. And I hear most things, but I have no idea what goes on between him and Will. Sir Will.
As a reminder and a further complication of their strange relationship, don't forget that Sir Will was knighted by Lord Robert Baratheon during Robert's rebellion. He was a man-at-arms that fought under Robert at the Battle of Stony Sept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not awkward at all.
Why his nickname is, of the Bells, is because that was called the Battle of the Bells, and because hedge knights take nicknames from stuff. But again, for some reason, he's always been welcome here. And it's a story that you've all been told 500 times. But yeah, so it's hard to read those two. It's weird. Why is this fucking hairy brute of a Riverlander that followed Robert? Why is he even in here? But yeah, it has been the cause of quite a few childhood ruminations from the lot of you throughout your young lives. Like, I was like, who is this guy? But continue. Back to the scene.
So I'm just as in the dark as you are. You haven't missed anything about that while you were gone. Sir Vannon,
Yes?
I would say go drink deep because we hit the road early.
All the more reason not to, I'm afraid.
But this is your evening, and I want you to enjoy it. I will have our belongings prepared.
I can't imagine more joy than I've already experienced, but further, the opportunity that this presents. A tournament so soon? I couldn't have entered except now.
It's going to be glorious, isn't it? Are you ready for battle?
Throws a look at Bela, which is... I'm trying to hide that I might have a crush on her. Of course. Of course.
Reyna, are you prepared for the implications of what that Raven's note said?
I am prepared to face the possible implications. But there are many. And we will have to provide a united front in such a place. We will be surrounded by people who do not respect or love us.
I mean, Bela, is that the applications that you mean, or do you mean something
Well,
else? You don't think we're going to be in danger, are we? I mean, other than the normal amount of danger.
the normal amount. Well, the roads are hardly safe on the road to King's Landing, and
No.
from the rumors that I've heard, King's Landing might be more dangerous than the roads.
Well, I mean, Luke's been okay, hasn't he?
Luke has flourished there.
Yeah,
That is a good.
he might have the knowledge we'll need in order to navigate the area and make sure that we're representing our house properly.
Yeah. It'll be nice to see him. I've missed him.
If anything, it'll be refreshing to find bandits on the road who aren't vulture kings.
All right then. Go down and spend time with the family. And I will make sure that the servants know to get all of our chests ready.
Right. The packing, those details and stuff, we're going to be glossing over until a summary tomorrow morning as you are hitting the road. Does anyone have any particular plans? Any conversations that are burning a hole in their soul? Or we just want to fast forward through a montage of celebration and goodbyes and cut to the next day?
I think we can probably do that as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm sure we could fill the rest of this session with just talking to people and such, but I think we can move the plot along.
Sure.
I would be all right with that because while I might want to seek advice, I'm sure as Seven Hell's not going to.
If any NPCs approach for a conversation, I'm happy to keep it short but to the point, but otherwise, carry on.
There will be conversations. We can fill in that with flashback conversations if anybody wants to later. One downside we have this week is that we, for literally the only time in this campaign that I have planned, kind of have a goalpost because we're going to try and get to King's Landing so that Robert, young Sir Lucaris, can join in and misses out as little as possible. So for literally the only time we have planned, we're trying to actually get somewhere kind of on a time budget.
Let's hoof.
So there are conversations aplenty. There's kind of parental advice coming from all these retainers that you have been discussing, your training with and yada, yada, yada. And then we've got kind of a slow montage as a soulful tune is playing the next morning. The montage is going to continue as Oris is loading your travel chests up onto their wagon. They have a big wagon that they use for their travels. And Oris is loading all your travel chests up on there. He's unloading all their shit and loading yours up. And even in this like slow motion soulful music interlude thing, you can see that he's like cursing at Woolly Will as he's doing it. Like they're arguing the whole time as he's unloading all their stuff and then reloading some of it and all this much finer stuff of House Nymaryen. There are a pair of pavilion tents in your house colors that are quite fine, and each of you has like leather wrapped chests with like metallic inlays around the corners and fancy stuff like that. And he's loading each of your travel chests up and all that. Grandfather embraces each of you, which is kind of rare. Targaryens aren't big huggers, but yeah, he's like this stately aloof grandfather embraces his grandchildren in a short little like jump cut from each of you. Vannon gets a warrior's handshake, wrist to wrist, which is in its way a warmer embrace. But everybody gets their goodbyes, and then the camera is going to kind of pull back and zoom out to most of you riding, Oris driving the wagon and Adam riding on the bench next to him. There is a mule and a few spare horses in a train behind the wagon, and we are going to cut to a commercial as we go take our intermission break, and we segue to peril on the road to King's Landing. So, Erica, drop a fat beat and give us a break screen, and everybody enjoy some music tossed together by the one and only Clifton Wright, Mr. Johnson from Arcology fame. And we'll be back after a brief break. So we'll see you guys in a couple minutes. And welcome back, everybody. When we last left off, the young scions of the ancient House Nymaryen had just hit the road with a brooding bastard, brooding lowborn named Oris, driving a wagon with the twisted leg lordling Adam Nymaryen sitting on the bench with him, as they have this kind of faintly outsized wagon with all the necessary goods for the house in it, and then a trio of outriders, the young ladies of House Nymaryen, Rhaena and Bela, and Sir Vannon Rivers, newly knighted and on his own prancing, war-trained steed. There's also a small train behind the wagon. They've got a pack mule and a rouncy, kind of a reddish brown with a dark mane. Just kind of muddy colors, like most of everything else that are owned by Woolly Will of the Bells. Woolly Will's personal heraldry, actually, as a knight, is just a black bell on a brown field. It looks like it was kind of hurriedly thrown together as he was knighted, and it's easy for all the rest of their color scheme to match. So their stuff is very clearly kind of just drab, and like natural wood colors work and still look right. And so it's a sharp contrast to the kind of steely gray and the gold and the wine red of House Nymaryen. So the wagon is pulled by a faintly oversized draft horse that just kind of trudges steadily along. We're going to fast forward through a lot of the travel, again with kind of generic movie-style jump cuts that show the lot of you trudging along. It shows you all caring meticulously for the horses. Oris will do more than his fair share there as squire, and he clearly knows his way around the animals. You have spent your life serving masters of horses and masters of hounds and stuff, Vannon in particular, and especially for a guy his size, he is almost startlingly gentle and careful with the horses. Firm hand on the reins when they need to be, but he clearly knows what he's doing. And you're all a little concerned whenever somebody else is caring for your horses, but he knows it. And all the stuff's getting cared for. There is one small thing that Oris does differently that you remember from a flashback joke of the morning that you left. And that's normally to care for a knight's mail, you put it in a barrel with some sand. Good dry sand, and then you roll the barrel around, and it's like a tumble in a washer, and the sand just scours any rust and stuff off of the mail, and then you can take it out and you oil it and care for it. Oris instead seems to have awakened half of the knights and squires in the keep the morning that you were leaving, and you can see the strong cider hungover, and Sir Adam hungover, and the Septon hungover, and all the other former fighting men are watching and kind of laughing with Wild Woolly. But Oris is doing like a kettlebell routine with a barrel full of Wild Woolly-sized chainmail and sand. Like he's lifting it up and like slinging it up over his head, holding it for a second, and then slinging it down. Like instead of just poking it with a stick and chasing it around the yard, he's like lifting and tossing it. He's topless for this, so somebody might enjoy the show, but is clearly where at least some of that bulk comes from. And Wooly just tells him, "I never told him about the rolling." Look at the boy, big as a draft horse. Do I know what I'm doing or not? And Oris is just over there, just fucking slinging around this heavy, Will of the Bells-sized suit of armor and a barrel full of sand, like it's just his normal fucking daily thing. So he will keep that up as caring for your mail. But the good news is you guys are in Dorne for the start of this trip. But you are looking at about a 2-week journey, and we're going to say that you're about 10 days in. This little caravan wound its way through the red hills of Dorne, partially on the road that everyone.
Sorry, guys. Rusty's PC just crashed.
Oh
Oh,
no.
shit.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I guess we can have conversations on the road. Or here he is.
What's your push to talk?
I got it pushed.
So hi, my PC has gone to a blue screen of death, so I'm going to steal Felicia's voice for a bit. You have wound your way out of the red hills of Dorne, partially with the road that your house keeps and maintains in the name of the princes of Dorne, and you've partially been able to cut a day or two off your journey because there are passes and paths that can only just barely hold this wagon that only the keepers of the Stoneway know. So you're able to shorten the journey a bit, but you're making pretty good time, and you are clearly out of Dornish territory as the weather starts to turn, and the general background shifts from red and gold of stone and sand to the lusher blues and greens of the clear skies, the rainy skies sometimes, and the lush green undergrowth of the Stormlands, which is to say the Dornish Marches, which is an area that has been often fought over by people like your house and people like these houses. So let's go ahead and pick it up with some chatter. As Oris grumbles a little like, of course it's going to rain. We're going north, and I've got to care for 1, 2, 3, every suit of armor in Westeros. So sure, drizzle away. Why not? Grumble, grumble, grumble.
At least it isn't snow.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Ash.
Well, I'm trying to
At
fix the cameras. I'm aware.
At least it isn't snow.
What is
Well,
that like anyway?
What do you mean?
I've forgotten what snow looks like.
Really? Well, it's cold and wet and fluffy.
All right then.
That sounds dreadful.
Sounds refreshing.
Well, you get used to it after a while, but it's more pleasant when you're on the inside looking out.
It's taken quite a while. I think we only have a few days left. I don't know. Maybe we can go hunting for something at some point. It's kind of boring, to be honest.
I would like that very much.
Do you suppose that the ladies will be allowed to enter, if not the lists, perhaps the melee or archery?
Oris will
Of course.
shrug his shoulders. He goes, well, Dornish women can be knights. Knights can tilt.
Big smile. Good.
Shouldn't it
Look
be to
over.
our advantage, though? Certainly there'll be those that will underestimate us because we are women.
Well,
Much more to their dismay.
Well, actually, there's a way around that. If you're interested, you can register as a mystery knight. Don't tell anyone your name. Wear a disguise. Make up.
I'm not going to disguise myself. I want to see the look in their eyes as I tower above them with my spear to their throat.
Okay.
Oris kind of snorts a little at the thought of you towering over someone, presumably. Not so much the spear part, because it's Valyrian steel and that's hard to miss. But the towering part is probably a little amusing to me.
Are you looking forward to this, Oris?
Doesn't matter.
What do you mean?
I mean, it doesn't matter what I look forward to.
You're a squire, but that doesn't deny you an opinion.
No, I'm just saying the opinion doesn't matter. My wants are second to the ones.
Oh no.
I'm sorry, Oris, you were
Willie will
derezzed.
my life to King's Landing at a whim to squire for a half dozen fucking strangers, so it doesn't matter what I look forward to or not. And he gives a half-hearted little slap on the reins that Boulder, the draft horse, does not acknowledge.
Is he all right?
Aren't you? Is that what Adam just said?
I just thought you'd look forward to a chance to distinguish yourself.
Not likely to get the chance. Sir Will has never let me enroll in the lists, and I was told to be careful in the capital because the capital's dangerous. It's supposed to be more dangerous to me now than I ever even knew it was, because a knight can apparently lie to his squire for that squire's whole life.
I'm sorry.
What exactly happened, Doris?
It feels like there's something you want to talk about.
He will glower and sulk and kind of hunch over, not just against the rain. He goes, turns out that I'm not nobody like I thought. I was just Oris. You lot knew me. I was just Oris, Willie Will's squire, and lowborn, and nobody. And being a squire was a step up from being nobody. And ever earning a knighthood is an even bigger step up. But I'm not nobody. I'm not Oris. I'm Oris Waters.
Congratulations.
Found out my mom was a highborn lady. The lady I thought was my mom was just a nursemaid that took me in because my mother didn't want me.
That seems
You
like
got
a
on a-
step up as well.
I was making steps up. I was lowborn and making something of myself. And instead, now it turns out that I'm a bastard who's just a bastard squire to a hedge knight. It was a step back. It's a step down. I should be doing more by 18. Sir Will's never even let me enter into the lists. Sir Will never even told me about my own mother. And if a knight can lie to someone that long about so much, what's the point in even being a knight?
Knowing him as I do, and as you do, don't you think it's possible that he said it simply for the sake of protecting you? Perhaps he knew you'd take it this way?
He said it was protecting me, but do I look like I need his protection?
You look like a newly minted 18-year-old man, but you weren't always, were you? Once you were a boy with noble blood and a loose end for someone to tie up. If you think being a bastard is so bad, then I suppose you and I shall have words, won't we?
He snorts derisively at that and lets it hang in the air for a second, so you're not sure what part he's snorting at. And he goes, squires aren't supposed to brawl with their knights, and I'm supposed to be your squire.
You're quite right. And if you're my squire and I'm your knight, then I'm to give you every opportunity, aren't I? Give him a meaningful look.
He will glower and shrug in that diffident, rebellious teenage way. Only bigger.
I've been hogging the spotlight, so I shrug and trot on.
I know we had talked in the past about Adam and Vannon having thoughts about similar topics. You know, sons being sent away and stuff. So feel free. Felicia and I are going to juggle in and out as we try to get my PC going again. But let's keep things rolling.
Okay, trot over by Adam. Are you riding a horse or are you in the wagon?
In the wagon.
Okay, trot up near the window.
Horses make me nervous.
All comfortable in there?
Yes, it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's it's an open-topped wagon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's no window cover stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no,
Not a carriage.
Yeah. Are you two all right? That seemed a bit tense.
Well, Horus is an ornery sort. It's fine.
I didn't really feel like I could say anything because I haven't seen him in 10 years.
You have the benefit of a last name of great import. I think you can say what you like.
Well, still, you know, I don't know what his life is like, so I would probably just make him more angry if I tried to give him. I mean, who am I to?
So
I don't have any advice. I don't have any advice to give.
I think your advice comes from a place he might be able to relate to more. Vannon.
Really?
Vannon, I mean.
All right.
I had hoped so. We'll find out.
Just, I mean, please don't fight.
Oh, we're not gonna fight until we get to the training grounds.
No, I mean,
then we're going to fight a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna be fighting
let's-
quite a bit there.
Yeah, there's a difference between sparring and fighting, but yeah.
I think there will be
Wait,
plenty of
wait,
opportunities for any of us to represent our house, and even those
Raina-
who squire for us shall be given
Yeah.
opportunities as well.
Yes, I mean, just Raina said we need to give a united front. We shouldn't fight with each other.
Given what Horus has discovered, it's perfectly understandable that he feels resentful and perhaps more than a little confused about who and what he is. We can
I
give
can
him the
understand that.
opportunity to find out. But what about you, Adam? I'm sorry, my lord. I haven't seen you since you were a boy.
Oh, it's a bit strange coming back. I feel like I know everything very well, but also don't know it at all.
The benefit of an outsider's view, my lord.
Perhaps. Things are very different in the north.
How so?
Well, I suppose the people are rather like the land, sort of cold and impenetrable. But and well, for that reason, I never fully fitted in there.
You're not worried you won't fit in here now, are you?
A little bit, I suppose. You know, I'm not coming back at night like I was supposed to.
What happened? Why didn't that occur like you thought it was going to?
Well, my leg's never going to get any better than it is now. I can stand and walk on my own for the most part, and that's something to be thankful for, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to ride the way I used to. I'll never charge with a cavalry. I'm not ever going to be good enough to be a knight, and
That's foolish.
I need to decide now what I can be.
There's plenty of things you could be. If you still want to go down the route of being a martial person, just look at Aunt Elia. No one's going to accuse her of not being an awesome warrior. Just because she stands or rides and uses a bow. She's killed so many bandits, and don't think that the only thing to combat is riding a horse with a spear or going into a melee with a sword. There's so much more.
You could easily command a company of archers, and or learn tactics, guide the swords of others. Or, my lord, you might consider leaving marks upon history which have nothing to do with war. If we should invite peace, then there will be those who need to build the great edifices which last through time, or write the histories themselves.
I'm taking this trip as an opportunity to look for where I fit in best. See what the gods send my way.
You're a Nymaryen, and you have only to choose your path, and you will master it.
Thank you, Raina.
It is what we do.
Your encouragement heartens me. Thank you.
I have every confidence that you will rise above in whatever way you choose.
Just need to do the house proud. Make myself useful.
Everyone.
You've already
Yeah.
doing the house proud.
You're born with a great name and a great mind, my lord. Strong arms can only carry you so far, or even 2 legs.
And we need you. We need all of us.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. If there's not many things I'm very sure of right now, but I am sure that I'm back with you to stay.
Excellent.
Speaking of needing all of you, I need everyone to make an awareness notice roll.
Oh, yay!
To make a check with a specialty in this game, you assemble yourself your die pool of d6s, equal to, in this case, your awareness. And then if you have the notice specialty, you add your bonus dice from notice. You roll that assembled pool of dice, and then you get to keep a number of dice equal to your awareness ability. So that's why they're called bonus dice. From specialties or from modifiers, you get to roll extra and then drop the lowest ones. So bonus dice just kind of help out your average. So give me awareness notice rolls. After the number of dice you get to keep, read me off that total, and we will see what we see.
Call off whose number you want.
Let's default to status order. So we will start with our Lady Air, young Ray.
16.
Okay, her twin.
15.
Okay, young Adam.
8.
And Sir Vannon.
16.
All right. Luckily, this was a pretty easy one. And that's plenty of success. You see circling crows up ahead, and you hear a little bit of snarling and snapping and barking as you get closer. I'm going to assume everyone readies weapons and takes a bit tighter grip on the reins, but as you draw near, easily scattered by a few flung rocks and curses, are some wolves that are feasting just like you guys feasted about a week and a half ago. Except you weren't eating the most delicate bits of a bunch of slaughtered human beings.
Oops.
Have come across a crow's feast and a wolf's feast of what looks to be the remains of a butchered camp. Again, we're going to hand wave through, briefly establishing a bit of a perimeter. There are no threats available. The wolves kind of sulk away. They remind you of Oris a bit. They're like, God damn it, this is garbage, bunch of dummies. But they scatter. It's a large group of people with big-ass horses and stuff. And the wolves have already eaten a fair amount. So they're going to kind of skulk away as long as one or two of you is keeping an eye out and you all know that Adam has his bow ready. You're able to take a look at these corpses with every bit the detail you don't want to. First off, there are no survivors. You're able to very quickly ascertain that. And any individual body has been just absolutely mauled. And this is all freebies. No need for medicine rolls, for instance, or even awareness checks. It's just that you spotted it all instead of rolling up on it suddenly, so there is no chance for your horses to be spooked. That's those awareness rolls. This is all very clear and very awful. Crows and wolves all start with the fleshiest, most delicate bits, so you can tell where skin was exposed, and you can tell where some of the most grievous injuries laid these guys out, because that's the easiest access. If a man gets his belly opened by an axe, you've all seen the vultures do their share. So, kind of pattern recognition in this small group, and with how often you all fight against bandits and the like, there's no women in this group. There's no children. They all look like they were once fairly large, robust, able-bodied men, and most of them are wearing the destroyed scraps of light armor. They all have sword belts on them, even if the swords have been taken. It looks like it was a band of men-at-arms or bandits. You're not seeing sigils and the like, so a little more likely to be some sellswords or bandits. But several of you have quite reputable warfare or fighting skills, or both. And you're able to just notice from, again, the time that you've spent fighting bandits, and from where these injuries are, it looks like these men were butchered. Throats are slit and heads are staved in. None of them have like defensive wounds on their forearms or that sort of thing. It looks like they were killed in their sleep, or otherwise kind of prisoners that were executed type of vibe. You've seen, executions before and murders compared to combats. There are a few knives and daggers lying around. Some of them are bloody. The only real weapon of note that you can make out among the savaged sword belts and the stuff, there is one broken sword. Looks like maybe one guy was able to try and defend himself. And the queer thing about it is the hilt work. It looks like it was old steel and not as well taken care of as it should have been. But let's have everyone give me a knowledge roll. Go ahead and roll education if you've got it, or tourneys if you have that specialty. Whichever specialty you have, better. This is going to be kind of a heraldry check. So we're going to go with knowledge, but you can use the tourney specialty or education. And then we'll get to your question after this, Kevin. So, what do we got? Raina?
8.
Bela?
4.
Oh, Adam?
15.
There we go. What do you got, Vannon?
16.
All right. The 15 and the 16 are certainly good enough. Even the two twins are like, yeah, it just looks like some Baratheon sword. It's got the hilt work is like a stag emblem with the antlers as like the cross guard and that sort of thing. And that's not unusual at all. But the bookish young Adam and the surprisingly bookish Sir Vannon, you recognize that this stag is not crowned. So it's a sword that's been around since at least Robert's Rebellion, right? Before he took the crown and they started slapping crowns on everything, and they actually changed the sigil of House Baratheon. So looks like an old blade. That might just explain why it's broken. And Kevin, what was your question or comment?
Can I use my survival tracking to try to find some tracks or anything like that?
I'm going to save you the roll because it's been steadily drizzling all day, and because about 8 wolves have been tromping around and dragging at the bodies and stuff like that. You're really not able to find much. And it's also just off the road. There's not uncommon to be little campsites just off a road like this. And sure enough, there's like the ruins of a campfire half underneath one of the bodies. So just way too much foot traffic. You're not able to find footsteps going out into the woods or whatever. Whoever did this could have just come right from the road. So, yeah, no luck there. Hard evidence is difficult to find under steady rain and the feasting of wolves. And then there's essentially a highway right there. But that does tell you that it probably happened last night at the latest, because nobody else has come along and moved the bodies or anything. So that should be fairly recent.
How many?
You count 8 men.
Well, we should keep this hilt, if nothing else.
Yes, see the lack of a crown on the antlers, that's before the rebellion.
No, this is old.
Yeah, it is old.
What are we gonna do with it, though? I mean, you just gonna present it to the king? Say we found this?
Well, perhaps not the king, but one of his men, certainly.
Yeah.
Is there a maker's... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, someone I expect this close to the city will know who these men were.
Yeah, you're still a few days right out. You're not sure exactly if you're still in the Stormlands or have made it into the Crownlands. You've still got about 2 days good ride to go, and especially after Baratheon took the crown, the line between Stormland and Crownland has gotten kind of fuzzy. So you're not sure exactly whose lands you're on, but muddy against the smoke, or muddy against the drizzle of the day, there is some smoke up ahead, and you did find an inn just a few days ago, so there should be an inn not far from here. They get more plentiful the closer you get to the capital, so you should be able to find out whose lands these are. Technically, whoever's lands you're on should be the ones keeping the king's peace on these lands. That's kind of what nobles are for. So you could try to present it to somebody here at this house, or they're probably going to be in King's Landing. So if you wanted to present it as some kind of evidence or whatever, the inn would be the place to find out whose lands you're on, and King's Landing might be the place to find that person. So good news, you're going in the right direction to follow either of those leads.
So what is the proper thing to do with all these bodies?
Well, if you knew them, and they were your retainers, then certainly you would want a proper burial. I don't know how particularly religious any of you are feeling. Oris certainly isn't reaching for a shovel himself. He's got a bunch of things on poles that are stuck in the back of the wagon. You've seen him use the hammer to pound in stakes. He's got a big-ass axe he used to chop some wood. One of them is a spade or a shovel, but he doesn't look real eager to, let's dig a grave for these 8 guys that. So he's not, volunteering. It's really up to you guys.
2 quick questions. One, was this blade was Castle Forge steel, yeah?
No. It did not look like it was of that level of quality.
So therefore
It's
no
not
maker's
poorly
mark?
made. Yeah, it's a standard issue weapon, not the kind of master crafted level that gives the bonus to hit and is more likely to have a maker's mark. It looks like the sort of mass produced for an army type of sort, because you tend to see that sort of house stuff on weapons that they outfit their.
Right, so it could have belonged to somebody who served, or it was found by someone after the fact on, with all the belongings of dead soldiers.
I look at Reyna. With your leave, I'll bury these bodies.
I don't think we should just leave them to be picked apart by animals, and certainly whoever they've left behind will thank us for walking on past.
Of course. You have
Oris will heave out a sigh that you can hear from his spot at the wagon, and he clambers down with a faintly outsized shovel. Everything that he has is just kind of big between him and Wooly Will. And he just gets to work. He paces off almost methodically, like a pacing distance away from a camp. Like you gotta do it. Done this before. And he heaves to and just starts digging.
I help out.
You can offer to spot him. There is just the one big shovel. But yeah, he'll give a grunt of surprise if you offer to spot him at the shovel. But he won't argue. So it takes some time. It's 8 guys that are reasonably large/fit, look like fighting men of some stripe. It takes a while
It's
to
left
dig.
of 8 guys.
Yeah. So it's about 7 guys worth, depending on how you want to count the parts.
There's the math.
But the day is starting to turn tonight by the time it's done. But the good news is that there is that inn, what looked like not too far away.
Or we have this campsite here. It's not occupied
Yeah.
anymore. I say jokingly.
But there are wolves near about, my lady.
Yes, let's not.
We'll definitely be going on, and she knows it.
I would like to just in case the site kind of degenerates to the point where it's unrecognizable, I would like to mark where the graves are, so that
Absolutely.
they can be found later.
Yeah, and you've got time to work up a big stake or whatever to drive into the ground while the digging is going on. So yeah, some sort of plank of wood can get driven into the soft ground. Oris has a big fucking sledge back in the wagon that he's able to hammer something in, so it'll stand just fine.
Thank you, Oris.
He gives a non-committal grunt. Thank you.
I'll say some words over the grave, the old gods and the new, mostly the old gods.
Yeah. And then we're gonna fast forward about 30 minutes of riding through an increasingly chilly drizzle, especially to those of you that are used to Dornish weather. Normally, when you do get some rain, it's warmer. And at least normally when it's cooler, you don't get rain. Because where you are in the mountains, you tend to not get both wet and cold at once. So this kind of sucks. But it's not long before you make your way to a fairly large inn. And here you're, day and a half, 2 days ride out of the capital. So the inns are a little bit bigger and more impressive than they are properly down in the Dornish marches, where armies marching through hasn't been quite uncommon, and stuff like that. So it's a big, impressive, kind of comforting building. And you head inside. Oris heads off to take care of the horses with a visibly gawking stable boy, whether at the size of the draft horse the impressive breeding of the multiple sand steeds that he gets to care for, that sort of thing. So they head off, and you all are able to head in. Dag's Inn is perhaps nothing to write home about, but it's clean, the food smells good, and it is warm and dry.
Ooh, I like that.
Looking around, you see two fairly young ladies serving the drinks and food. You see a kind of chubby, ruddy, far past his prime innkeep. He's still got pretty broad shoulders, though, and there's a sword kind of mounted on like a placard type of thing behind the bar. That's behind the bar. You see him up there serving drinks and talking to a similarly chubby, post-middle-aged woman. It looks like she is winning the good-natured argument. She is out shrieking at him as he raises his voice. She's just better at it. His might be a retired sellsword's bellow, but hers is much more practiced, and she is clearly queen here at this inn. You see a big, kind of barrel-shaped fellow sitting over pretty near the tap. And it looks like he's drinking his fair share. The servant girl that you see is clearly on her way, cleaning up a few empty tankards from his. He looks like kind of a loud sort, boisterous. And there we go. Who is doing what?
I'll walk directly to the innkeep-looking gentleman.
He turns at like the sound of footsteps, and looks cheerful and ready, like that Quicksilver mood of this kind of good-natured arguing with his wife that dissolves immediately when it's time to be friendly to a customer. And then that look kind of falters a bit as he looks at you and your colors and sigil a bit. But he's still kind of formal. He goes, hello, milady.
I said, greetings. I need to obtain boarding for the night for myself and my companions. There'll be 5 of us total.
He gives a quick glance to his wife, who gives a little nod, and you're good enough at social stuff that you're able to spot that. He goes, most of the other highborn folk have already made it through, so we've got rooms open. It'll be 10 silver. That's more than you would expect. A silver or 2 a room is pretty okay, but charging 2 a room for a place like this is a little exorbitant.
Throw in the food and you've got a deal.
And stabling for the horses.
That too.
Push to talk.
So that's everything, right?
He bristles a bit like, I know how to run an inn. You get your stabling and your meal.
Well, that's acceptable then, sir. I will settle up now so that there's no confusion.
His wife holds a hand out for the coins.
I pay her 10 silver.
All right. Also, out of character, we're going to have a flashback to coins the start of next session, so Lucaris can be there for the flashback. You can cover 10 silver just fine. So, the inn is yours. Anybody got particular plans to speak to anybody about anything?
I figure it would be a little bit hush on exactly who we are. Like I'm not gonna like other than like what I'm wearing and the sigils that are on me. I don't think openly talking about house business or things like that is smart. So definitely won't be doing that. But I'll make sure to get a couple flagons of ale and.
Yeah, you can lay down a couple copper, and it will handle drinks for the evening, assuming none of you are drinking to boisterous excess. You raise a few copper, and that'll handle your drinks along with your food. You are getting that same sort of kind of cool, kind of fearful look from the serving girls, from the innkeep and his wife. Everybody but the big dude sitting and drinking a lot, who sees you, and he looks kind of bemused by the lot of you, which might just be how the big dude at the tavern looks at everybody. He could just be the big dude of this tavern who gives everyone that look. But it does seem a little weird that everyone else is a little trepidatious around you. And that kind of strange look continues as the common room fills. As you get a little bit further after dusk, everyone's coming in from the fields and lots of people are coming in to eat. And there's some other travelers on the roads and stuff. And you notice most of them are still giving you those kind of ugly looks. Nobody is like saying anything, but there's a few kind of double takes, and like people turn from like a friendly look to a little bit worried look.
I'll make my way to the innkeep if that's all right.
Yep.
Beg your pardon, friend. Seems a rather cool reception we're receiving here. Is all well?
He opens his mouth to start talking, and then his wife answers instead. Everything's fine, Sir Knight. Just fine.
Perhaps you could tell me a little bit about the other nobles who've passed through on their way to King's Landing?
You hear an intake of breath as he gets ready to start talking again, and then his wife cuts in and answers again. We're not folk for gossip, good sir. We offer clean rooms and fine food, and that's all. And then immediately making a liar of her, I'm going to need everybody to roll me 2d6 as each of you listens to rumors in the common room as the chatter picks up around you. Give me the 2d6 rolls, give them to me one at a time. So almost like a percentile roll, give me 3, 4 instead of saying 7. Is that making sense? And we will start with Kevin, who the camera was on, and we'll just see what you hear from somebody talking, at the next table.
6-5.
All right. Okay. So immediately as she we're not ones for gossip, especially about the highborn, you hear and a quick glance shows you that it's a tinker who they travel a lot and they repair stuff. And you bet your life he's talking to like a blacksmith. Guy's got the broad shoulders. He's still got a little soot on him and like that heavy leather apron.
Oh no.
Heavy leather apron.
Yeah, the PC just died.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna have to fix that.
I know.
Fund our channel so we can fix this PC.
So it's clearly a tinker and a blacksmith. Blacksmith's got the broad shoulders, the heavy leather apron, etc. And like the heartbeat after she finishes saying, oh, we don't gossip around that sort of thing. Give me 1 second. I've got to find it in the book as opposed to the PDF that I had open when I.
This is why the future belongs to the analog loyalists.
With your role, you get uh, a force of soldiers from that House Nymaryen. They invaded House Dannet just last week, and the Dannet men ran him off, led by young Adam himself. The despicable louts scattered like curs, but not before those no-good Nymaryans just burned and looted a little village and killed something like 15 small folk they did. Lord Adam, he's on his way through now, going straight to the capital with evidence, I heard. Evidence indeed. And the sword hand of one of the butchers, too. And then, just as he's like getting ready to keep going, he kind of catches an elbow from the blacksmith, who finally notices the sigils and crests and stuff.
I raise a flagon to him. Don't know what you've heard, friend, but 2 hands, and we certainly weren't anywhere outside of our own lands.
We? And he looks at your card. Well, just... I saw the shield myself, Sir Knight. No disrespect intended, I suppose, but I saw it. Nymaryen shield, spattered with the blood of innocent small folk, they said.
I stand up, walk over to his table. Do you mind if I join you?
He looks to the blacksmith, who's a pretty big guy, and they both kind of bristle and go, turns out I kind of do mind, sir, what with what's going on and all. He can't hold your
right.
gaze. You could tell that he kind of regrets saying it as soon as he does, but it looks like he doesn't want to sit with you right now.
I shake my head. That's perfectly fine, friend. If I thought as you thought, I'm sure I would feel the same way. But the more I can find out, the more we can clear our good name, for I can assure you, we've hunted naught but bandits. In fact, we found 8 men dead and feasted upon by wolves just outside of town.
The Tinker is unprepared to argue with a knight. Like, you can tell he kind of wants to, right? But he goes, well, I just... Be that as it may.
Speak
stories
friend.
Save your stories for the capital, then. You tell it to the king and to Lord Adam. A quick history lesson on House Dannet. House Dannet are your neighbors to the south. They are bannermen of House Ironwood that were bannermen of House Nymaryen until Robert's Rebellion. The lands that were taken from you after the rebellion and given to House Ironwood included, but were not completely limited to, the lands of House Dannet. So the old Lord Dannet recently passed away about a year ago, and his grandson Adam is the new Lord, and he's of an age with you lot, and maybe even a year or two younger. Your houses do not like one another, clearly, but you have never heard of Adam being the lying sort. And you guys have had a few little threatening skirmish kind of display of force things in the years since the rebellion. Neither side has really taken up arms against the other. A few small folk have brawled and maybe brought a woodcutter's axe into it, and that sort of thing. But you've both been kind of meticulously avoiding war. But that's House Dannet. They are neighbors of yours that do not get along, and they are bannermen of House Ironwood, which does not get along with you. But you do think it's a little weird. The Ironwoods are an older house than yours, and just as proud in their misplaced way. And
Slaughtering small folk sounds out of character.
Like theirs. Yeah. So there's your rumor. Let's do everyone else's. Erica, what was your role?
1-3.
I hear that Marita Lugas is engaged to Langley Woods. It's supposed to be formally announced there at the Capitol. So romantic. During the tourney, him expressing his undying love and affection before the whole field and stuff, but that Langley is nervous, and who would blame him? After what's happened to Marita's last two husbands, I wouldn't want to marry the Black Widow. You know that House Lugus is a Stormlands house, but none of you have really been listening to gossip from the Stormlands, especially given relations between Stormlanders and the Dornish. I'm not even going to really allow for roles to pick up on that. You do know House Woods is a northern house, so she's having to travel kind of far afield, it would sound, for new suitors. But yeah, Lugus is a Stormlander house. Ash, what was your role?
5-4.
Oh, I heard Lord Stannis himself isn't going to his niece's name day tourney. There's no prying him off Dragonstone. Still bad blood between him and King Robert, and you know what they say about feuding families. No, they'll not get him off Dragonstone. Ha! Especially not for a feast. So you hear that? It fits with most of what you've all heard about Stannis. And Felicia, what was your role? Everybody knows the tourney's not honestly for Princess Marcella's name day. I hear it's because the Queen got pregnant again. Hasn't been formally announced yet, but I have a cousin who's got a sister who's a servant in the palace, and she heard that the Queen has morning sickness. And everyone knows it's normally the king who's throwing up all morning. And then I rolled for Oris and just for general group chatter. And you hear, trouble befell that House Corbray on the road. Their youngest brother died. Pathway washed out on their way down out of the Vale. It's just the Lord and that Lynn Corbray now. Out of character, you guys aren't big fans of House Corbray. They're a Vale house. You know Sir Lynn's name in particular because he was the one that slew Prince Lewin Martell of the Kingsguard and broke the Dornish lines at the Battle of the Trident. So Lynn Corbray is a famed and dangerous knight that most Dornishmen in particular don't think very highly of. So there is some good news mixed in with all of this. If there's one less Corbray in the world, and you didn't even have to do it yourself at the melee. So there is some gossip for the night. 1 second. All right, and my computer is still slowly loading, so I apologize for that. But anyone else have any particular plans for the tavern tonight?
I think, well, Adam's kind of used to just trying to blend in and not draw too much attention to himself. So he's kind of conscious of the tension in the room. So he's probably not approaching any strangers, but kind of trying to appear as kind of normal and personable as possible, especially given that there are unpleasant rumors about the house flying around. So trying to avoid trouble.
Sounds like a sound plan. Hey, what about your big sister?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get into any more trouble. It's kind of easy to read the room here that some people are maybe not too happy to see us here, and I'm sure it'll contribute to some sort of gossip that may or may not happen in this place and elsewhere.
Okay. Is Sir Vannon going to go looking for any trouble?
Looking for trouble? No, but prepared if it comes. I'll retire to my room, but stay up, like, working on my heraldry for my shield and whatnot, because there probably wasn't enough time to, set up a sigil.
Sure. I mean, it just takes a little painting. You can try to rough it out. Yeah, you can try to rough it out yourself, or you are on your way to the capital, which is going to be full of all sorts of people. Any tourney has people ready to paint armor and shields and stuff. So you
That's
can
true.
you can mull it over.
All right, in that case, I
So-
retire to my room, but I've got my ears open in case there's trouble. Prepping my weapons, got them all close at hand, and tell my hunting hound Apollon to chill out nearby.
Sure. It sounds like no one's going looking for trouble, so trouble will not necessarily find you. There is just the kind of disconcerting, like knowing that everyone around thinks ill of you, that is new to most of you. So it's an uncomfortable evening. It's not the fault of the food, which is simple tavern fare. Good yeasty rolls, along with a stew of some sort of meat, probably more than one. Just simple stuff you can scoop out and serve to people fairly cheaply. It's fine, but unremarkable, etc., etc. The next morning, you do hear the telltale rattle and thump of Oris tending to everyone's mail with his workout routine of a barrel full of chainmail and ring mail and stuff and lots of salt. And he gets an early start on it because everyone got caught in that rain yesterday. But you are able to be ready to go. The innkeep is a little kind of surly and reluctant with the breakfast, but a couple coppers can change his mind pretty easily. We're going to gloss over that intrigue. You guys don't have to bully him with dice. He will go, oh, fine, and some extra biscuits. Let none speak ill of Dag's Inn or the hospitality you found here, no matter who you are.
No, quite the opposite. I'll be able to quite confidently sing your praises, sir.
He gives you a look like he thinks you're making fun of him, which is a look that lots of small folk give lots of nobles that try to be nice, or like it might be a trap, which is kind of the look the tinker gave the knight last night, when you were like, no, buddy, go ahead and argue. Like that's how most knights would say it, like, sure, speak your mind, friend, and then they put their hand on their sword. So it's just the nature of small folk. They know. So they look a little suspicious at your compliment, but he doesn't like spit in your food or anything like that. So you get a little kind of bundle of bacon and some biscuits to make sandwiches on the road. And then we were going to do another travel montage of sorts. And then we're going to call for awareness notice rolls. As you're making your way through the woods themselves, you're now in the Kingswood, less than a day's good ride out of the capital. So give me that awareness notice again. Just let me know if anybody doesn't beat a 10.
I'm fine, 13.
19.
Okay. As long as any of you made it, it is fine. So, my assumption again is that Adam is on the wagon with Oris, and the other three are on their personal mounts.
Yes,
I know
I am.
Adam is still kind of avoiding horseback. So, you spot them, and it's not actively raining right now, but the skies are still overcast, and you are in an area with a decent amount of winds. So it turns out the wind catches these shots just as they miss you, but thunking into the seat between Oris and Adam and sailing over Bela's head are a pair of arrows that catch your eye just as you round a bend. And you see
Oh no.
a pair of armed men on the road ahead, and a couple of shapes in the kind of underbrush on the side of the roads as they hurriedly knock arrows and get ready to attack again. So,
Oh no.
let us commence with our combat tutorial. Everyone, roll me initiative. And keep in mind that this roll is going to be modified by whatever armor you are traveling in. Remember I mentioned you can wear lighter armor, heavier armor, whatever. But you're going to be making an agility quickness test. So agility is the ability score. Quickness is the appropriate specialty. And then whatever your armor penalty is for what armor you have on lowers your total by that amount after you make that roll.
Okay. I have a 9.
So Reyna would go first.
She's rolling. 1 second.
Lovely.
Sorry, 1 second. I also don't have my notes document handy. Reyna rolled a 4, so she will announce her initiative first, but probably not go first. So let's hear from Bela.
I have a 9.
Initiative from Bela.
9. God dang it. Hold on. Let me,
Did we lose Erica?
Can you hear me now?
She's having some trouble with the sound.
Hold up fingers.
All right, Bela has a 9.
9? Oh, no. Here, I'm gonna leave the call real quick, come back.
And I'm worried now
There we
because
go.
we lost Bela.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, here we go, Erica. So you had a 9, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, Adam.
7.
Sir Vanin.
Running 9 with Bela.
Vanin.
It's all good.
Right, and then...
It's Frankenstein.
All right, we're just gonna have Oris go last because he's an NPC. And 1 second for these guys.
He has to take the free action sulk before he can do anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the penalties for being a bastard.
Ouch.
Hey.
It's harsh but
Okay.
fair.
Combat initiate. Jon Snow. But I'm a bastard.
As an aside, what I'm a fan of in games that have, for lack of a better term, kind of Mook level NPCs, I tend to roll their initiative as a group or in groups based on their armament. So like you guys are up against 2 bow wielding NPCs and 2 melee NPCs, and I'm going to have them go in those 2 groupings. In larger groups with more notable characters, we're going to do individual initiative. But for this, we're going to kind of keep it simple and streamlined. And also, as for lack of a better term, Mook level bad guys, I'm not going to let them take wounds or injuries, which are the methods of damage mitigation, partially just to speed up the fight, partially because often small folk level threats don't get to, because that's one of the ways to make knights and player characters and stuff more badass by comparison. That said, 2 of these NPCs are up first, and it's the 2 with the bows. So they're going to hurriedly take another shot. The good news is they don't seem to be super great at this, judging by the first shots. Bela, what is your combat defense?
It is a 9.
Okay. They rolled a 9 exactly. So that is not going to do any extra damage. If they hit by more, if you hit by more, if anybody hits by more, damage is doubled and tripled and that sort of thing. But they barely hit you, so you're going to take 3 points of damage, which could be mitigated by what sort of armor you're wearing.
It is. I'm wearing scale.
Okay, so you're out to look impressive, and or you're worried about the bandits you ran into yesterday, potentially bandits. So yeah, it's gonna kind of just glance off your armor. It was a narrow hit to begin with. The other one is gonna take a shot at Sir Vanin this time, because he is on a fast-looking horse and that is the natural bane of archer folk. Vannon, what is your combat defense?
With my armor, it is 16.
With what? Oh, okay. That's going to be awful high for with armor. Remember, combat defense is a combination of agility, athletics, and awareness. And then it is modified if you're using a shield, that adds to it. But armor is going to lower it.
Oh.
Yes, that combat defense penalty that armor gives, it lowers it and makes it easier to hit, but armor provides damage resistance. So that's the trade-off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had it as my unarmored 9, armor is a breastplate for 5, and my shield is a +2.
Gotcha. So what's the combat defense on a breastplate? I believe it's a -2.
Yeah.
Okay. So it basically cancels out the shield, because you're using just a regular shield, right? Not a large shield?
Yeah, just a regular shield.
Right,
So
so-
it'll be 14 then?
No. Remember, armor does not modify it. Rather, it lowers it.
Okay.
Armor resistance is a separate thing from combat defense. So your combat defense is a 9, but the +5 that the armor gives, that's damage resistance.
Okay. In that
So-
case, so it's a 7 unarmored with the -2?
But you have a +2 from the shield.
Okay,
So
so
the
9.
shield cancels out the armor. Yeah, so it's a 9.
Now I understand. Thank
There
you.
we go. You are also hit, but only with a single degree of success. So their basic 3 damage is not enough to get through armor and shield. So you can describe it as catching it on your shield if you want, or it spangs off the heavy armor. So their archers, unfortunately for you, got to go first, but fortunately for you, they're not great shots and it's a little bit windy. So that brings us to Bela and her 9.
Well, I'm going to pull out my spear and ride up to the archers and try to spear one.
A sound plan. On horseback, you're able to move at a pretty good clip, and also attacking people on foot while you are on horseback gives some pretty substantial bonuses. If you would like to make this a charge attack, it's going to increase the base damage, but you get to keep 1 less die that you roll, or you can just make it an attack where you ride up and then as a separate action you attack. You're going to assemble the same die pool either way, and this is where fighting on horseback gets to be pretty fun, because you've got your basic dice pool of your fighting ability, and then you add a die or 2 or whatever for your special training with that weapon, and then you take away bonus dice if the weapon has a training modifier. But I believe you're using the house spear, because why wouldn't you? And a basic spear has no modifier. So you've got a fighting of, I believe, 4, correct?
I do.
And then spears of 1?
Spears of 2, actually.
Spears of 2. So you're going to be rolling to start 6 dice and keeping 4. But you are fighting on horseback against an opponent that is not. So you get additional bonus dice equal to your animal handling.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be another 3 or 4. You don't get to add the bonus from ride as like a specialty of animal handling. It's just animal handling. But for you, as I recall, that's another 3 or 4 dice, right?
3 more.
Okay,
6.
so if you don't charge, it's going to be 6 dice, keep 4. If you do charge, it's going to be 9 dice, keep 4. If you do charge, it's 9 dice, keep the best 3, but the base damage of your attack goes up by 2, which can then potentially get multiplied. So it can add up pretty quick. So it's your call.
I'm going
Do you
to
wanna
not
charge
charge so that I can keep 4 of the dice on
Gotcha.
9.
Alrighty, so 9 dice, keep 4. Should be looking at a bunch of 5s and 6s if the curve holds out.
Yeah, so that will be 21. No,
Oh,
22.
Just missed them. So that is a sound hit. Was the 22 from adding on the Valyrian steel?
That's correct.
Like, was that also factored in? Okay. So a 22, he's got a combat defense of 7. So a 7 would be 1 degree of success. A 12 gets you a second. A 17 gets you a third. And a 22 gets you 4 degrees of success.
Ooh.
So what is the base damage of your spear?
Base damage is 5.
Right. So you just stabbed this dude for 20 points.
And it has Pierce 1.
Yes, that is more than enough. These guys are wearing like a padded gambeson with like a few leather patches in a few spots, somewhere between padded and leather armor. But the piercing does not notice that. It is a fine Valyrian weapon, and you are able to just run this guy through. That is more than enough to one-shot him. Describe it. Where did you want to stab him? Because you stab him right the fuck there.
All right, so I ride up and I'm brandishing the spear, and I do a flourish, twirl it around, and then catch him right across the neck, just to try to lop off his head and be done with it.
That is what happens, because 4 degrees of success is technically the most you can get in this game. It is a messy thing. Not least of which because it's kind of a unique fighting style. He's expecting kind of a knightly lance straight at him, and instead, like, you ride past him and then flick out with the blade using that wide, impossibly sharp Valyrian steel, almost like a sword. And yeah, he does not know what gets him. To clarify, for my own edification, was that one of the archers or one of them that is now brandishing an axe?
It was an archer, the one that shot at me specifically.
That is fair and reasonable. And he is dead. So Vannon, you are up at 9.
So acting at the same time, I'm riding up towards the other one. Is it possible for me to try to hit him with the flat of the blade, like knock him out or something instead of kill him?
You can. Off the top of my head, I do not recall what the penalty is, so we will say that it will be -1 kept die. So you still get to roll the full handful of whatever, but it'll be -1 that you get to keep. Okay. So you're using a bastard sword, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it's going to be your fighting, plus your long blades bonus dice, -1 bonus die for the bastard sword training requirement.
But I have the training requirement.
Right, but you still lose that die.
Oh.
The difference is that you're not taking an additional penalty. So you don't get to roll that 1 extra die.
Gotcha.
But you still get to keep your full complement. Fighting 5, as I recall, the blade would make it 6, goes back to 5 for the training requirement. And then what's your animal handling?
3.
So you're going to be rolling 8 dice, keeping 5. If you try to injure instead of kill him, we're going to say it's 8 dice, keep 4.
8 dice keep what?
Keeping 4. So it's -1 kept die for that attempt.
Oh me, oh my. That's a 6. That's a 6. That's a 5. And I'll take this 3. So 12, 17, 20.
Okay.
+1 if the Castle Forged steel works.
Yeah. +1. Yeah, it's an attack roll with a Castle Forged weapon. So it is literally not quite as impressive as her strike because you were 1 point shy of that final degree of success. But it is still an absolutely impressive strike. What's the damage on the bastard sword?
5.
Okay. It sounds like a lot. But it's either 4 or 5. Either way, it's going to be plenty. We will double check some math later. But that is still enough. With his armor rating of 1, that is not nearly enough against 3 times that damage. So you were able to ride up. And was this an archer or an axeman?
Well, I think there was only the axemen left, right? There were only two of them.
No, there are 2 archers and 2 axemen.
Oh. Then I went for the other archer then.
Okay.
Doing a ride by.
Yeah, the archers were in the road and started shooting, and then the men with axes were coming out of the underbrush. Sorry if I was unclear.
That's all good.
So, yeah, you are able to just ride up and you clobber him in the head with the flat of the blade or the hilt. Either one would get the job done. So, at 9, now the 2 axemen go, and they are the 2 that remain. We're going to have one of them rushing towards the wagon because that was their plan, and one of them is going to turn and rush at the pair of horsemen that are now the closer threats. So, 1 second, even Stevens. All right, he is going to go rushing at Bela. So she was the closer of the 2 riders. He is not super great at this, but 5, 9, an 11. Does that hit you?
It does hit me, yes.
Does it hit you by less than 5, as I recall?
That's correct. It's 1 degree.
Yep. So, once again, 1 degree of success. Your armor is more than enough to soak it, because their damage is a 3, as it turns out, with their axes as well. So he rides up, and you are able to functionally dodge it. You can catch it as a parry that mostly deflects it. It just glances off your armor a little. However, you'd like to describe the blow. It's not hitting soundly enough. The other one, Ash, call me evens or odds?
Odds.
Odds. So he rolled evens. He's going to attack Oris. You see him looking at you the whole way as he comes running up with this axe. And then you think, like you make out the moment when he's like, if I don't kill that guy with this axe, that guy's gonna kill me. So I know I'm supposed to kill the kid, but he veers off at the last moment, and he takes a swing at Oris. The good news is that Oris does not have a low combat defense because Oris is wearing only quilted armor. 11 is enough to hit. And then we're going to do some quick numbers jankery because Oris, 3 points, gets through Oris's armor because Oris's padded armor gives him 1. He's got a quality that makes it 2. 1 point of damage is normally absolutely worth ignoring, but Oris is going to kind of lean into it because fuck this guy. And because Oris has the Berserker trait. Anytime that Oris mitigates damage by taking an injury or a wound, Oris gets to make a free melee attack. So Oris leans into it like this guy's trying to punch him. And he slings up his left arm to catch the blow so that the blade doesn't hit him, but the haft of the axe does. And it's just like a Captain Kirk catching a guy's punch with his left hand. And then Oris grabs one of the poles somewhere behind him in the wagon. Bela, pick me a number between 1 and 4.
I'm going to choose 2.
A 2. Okay then, it's the medic. So Oris, because they've got an assortment of pole weapons behind him in the wagon, and he grabs the giant fucking axe/sledgehammer combo with it. And he takes the axe, or the blocking arm that was overhead, and turns it into a grip on this haft also. And he just brings this mattock up and over and down in a single strike. And honestly, this motherfucker's combat defense of 7. We got 5 dice. We reroll that one because Blood of Vandals. Oris is hanging with you guys with your 20s and 21s. His is a bit lower. It's only an 18, but an 18 to hit against combat defense 7 with the base damage of Oris plus a giant fucking long axe. This guy's dead. And he's dead on his own action, which brings extra shame to him in the afterlife.
He did.
Yes. Which
Rip.
leaves one of them for Adam at 7, and then for Reyna at 4. But Adam is up first at 7, and there's some bitch with an axe trying to kill your sister up there.
Yeah. So, in that time, Adam will have grabbed one of his bows. I'm going with the hunting bow stats, and is going to fire at the guy.
Sure, we're gonna say that it uses like your lesser action to just kind of ready the weapon.
Sure.
In this case, so you can't get extra cheeky with an aim action. But as I recall from your sheet, you are not likely to need it. So go ahead and sling me that massive handful of archery dice.
It's only 5.
And remember, as you doom this poor fool, you're only looking for a combat defense of 7 against him.
Yeah, that's 17.
So, against combat defense 7, he needs 7, he needs 12, he needs 17. So that's 3 degrees of success. So what is your base damage with?
It's agility, so let me just check that. I think it's 2. Yes, 2.
Okay, so that's going to be 6 points of damage. 5 is going to get through his armor. He is still up. There is an arrow sticking out of his back, and like you fouled his next swing, but you were scared to aim a little too high because you didn't want to overshoot him and hit your sister or her horse.
Firing into melee is dangerous.
That one, yeah. So that one with an axe yet remains, but coming up at initiative 4 is Lady Reyna, who is on a horse and who has a weapon. And who has her mouth full right now, so she can't even holler what she wants to do.
Bye-bye.
She is going to charge up and poke someone with a sword.
Slash.
So, let's assemble Lady Reyna's massive die pool, because she is also fighting from horseback on a combat-trained steed.
Three for fight.
Got 3 for fighting.
1 for longsword.
Plus 1 for long blades.
And 3 for
plus 3 for animal handling. So you're rolling all that. You are keeping just the base 3 for fighting. But the good thing about this many bonus dice is like they should be all pretty high.
Oh, God.
And then don't forget to add 1 because you're using castle forged weapons. Ash, I don't recall if you
14.
did that, but you would have hit by the same amount either way. So a 14 is enough for a 2nd degree of success. It is not as impressive a roll as the rest of you, but an arrow did just kind of go whistling over her shoulder as she was racing down the thoroughfare to shoot this guy. Adam's shot kind of threaded the needle. It didn't hit either sister, but it might have thrown her aim off a little bit. She doesn't quite get the world-ending 20-something that some of the rest of you are rolling, but that is enough to finish this guy off because he also has an arrow sticking through his back. And we are going to call the session there as you guys are panting and your horses are kind of high-strung. Sand steeds are full of energy, so they're kind of doing that like prancing sidelong in a circle thing. Oris has leapt down off the wagon like with the force of that swing and is standing there with this, bloody long axe looking around through his shaggy mane of hair. They're looking around, but you don't see any other threats. And the camera will turn and fade down to the 3 corpses and the 1 quietly groaning in pain fellow that is now your prisoner, which is where we are going to pick up in 2 weeks. So, congrats everybody. we just wrapped up our pilot episode. We have wrapped up our first kind of training wheels combat of learning how it all falls together. And chat, everybody that was watching also survived. There was no heartbreak. Nobody was here as a ringer to die in the first session just to get that genuine George R.R. Martin vibe. We didn't pluck your heartstrings by making you fall in love with young Adam and then murdering him with a stray arrow at the start of the fight. Yada, yada, yada. So, thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you for joining us, players. I heartily apologize for my multiple blue screens of death.
But I think I fixed it.
We think it has been fixed. We've got a few weeks to hammer it out, and we will investigate my error messages more. So sorry for that kind of bump in the road. But I hope everybody enjoyed their first taste of assembling die pools and how the dice work. This is kind of an easy fight by design, so you didn't really get to explore the destiny point mechanic yet, but they are going to be very important in coming weeks. In this fight, you guys are fighting a couple of bedraggled bandits that are ambushing you on the road. In coming weeks, you guys are going to be doing intrigues in King's Landing, very much against your superiors, or at least your peers. So the destiny point mechanic, you guys are going to get to see it definitely come into play a little bit more. I missed it in the chat because my computer is a hell machine. So who is currently sitting on the Iron Throne right now, everybody?
Crimson
I wasn't
Dude.
able to keep with chat. Who is it? Sorry, we
It's
got Crimson
Crimson
something?
Dude.
Crimson Dude.
I believe that is our boy James Myers, I think. So whoever is currently sitting the Iron Throne, make sure to hit me up. If you can shoot me a PM over on Facebook or something, or PM anyone else that you know here, and they will get you in touch with me. And we will figure out what noble house you want to give a boon to. And it does not need to be House Nymaryen.
Sure it does.
Remember that the throne is fickle. So
Give it
it's kind of
us.
any faction you want to give it to will get some sort of a leg up. As we see you all back here again 2 weeks from now, and we're also going to see our final player, as you all get to meet Robert, who is playing young Sir Lucaris Nymaryen, who has been the one that has been hanging out in King's Landing for a time. So we will see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. I apologize for the gremlins attacks, but I hope everybody had a good time. I know I did. Welcome to Westeros, everybody. So let's see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Nah, nah,
Bye.
nah, 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 nah.